So I was gonna say this is a weird one, but it's not really that weird. I don't know why I would think that, but leaving that in there just for transparency's sake. Um, secrets, secret stuff, telling secrets, listening to secrets, secrets. Uh, I kind of alluded to this a couple weeks ago, or within the past couple weeks, maybe once or more than once. I know I definitely talked a little bit about it when I talked about the video with like kid stuff, or like the not kids. Well, it was about kid stuff, but it was the baby fever thing, and just like I've talked about it in the vlog too a little bit of just like privacy and like understanding and respecting people's privacy and sometimes for me it is a lack of understanding and sometimes for me it's not respecting it, so that sucks. um, I will say that like when I understand it I do my best. I can't say I do my best to respect it. It depends on the situation. It really depends, and I guess we're going to get into that. There are some things if someone tells me like, hey, this is a secret, please don't tell anybody. It depends on who they are, it depends on what the secret is, it depends on my relationship with that person. If it's something that's going to embarrass them, I really don't. It's not like a fun thing for me to go and tell, like, oh wow, you got to hear this about so and so. Like, it's not really like a gossip related thing. I think that I like shed people's secrets and stuff. What happens is, and I don't know if it would call this a secret. That's why I guess it's weird to call it to call it that. But like sometimes there's information that people share with me, or there's experiences that I have with people that are a part of my story at this point in a way because that person's close to me, because that person's actions affect me, because their personal histories affect mine, like who they are and the things they're made up of and the experiences they've had make them who they are, and I'm interacting with them on sometimes a daily basis, depending on how close the person is to me, and I feel like that thing is whatever the things are. If there's big things in their life, they give context to that person. So there are times where I meet somebody new in my life that starts to play an important role, and I'm trying to give them context for my life and my personal histories, and sometimes those stories involve other people. And sometimes those stories involve other people's stories in a way. I don't really know how to illustrate this without actually telling you anything, so it's just difficult to do. Because obviously I don't want to like be that public with other people's stories. It's just the concept that it's just, it's just hit me more today than other times because there's been some big events that have been going on in my personal life that are more related to other people's personal life than mine, even though they directly affect me. And it's hard sometimes to not talk about it. Like sometimes there's really, really, really big things, like really big incidences, and my desire to want to talk about things like that isn't out of like a gossipy nature. It's wanting to unload the burden. It's like, holy smokes, like there's so much stuff going on, and I just want to talk about it just to process it differently, just to let it out a bit, to just get some relief, whether it's through someone's understanding and being able to talk to me, like to talk back with me, or if it's because they can relate, or because they have like methods of coping with it, or just sharing stories back and forth. Like I don't know, things like talking and being the opposite of private, I guess, with people I'm intimate with, like, or people that I have like intimate relationships with, or really close relationships. Let's just say, like, it's always been easy for me to do. But it just gets more and more complex as time goes on because there's other people that have affected my life. And like I said, there's times where I feel like I can't tell my story without telling theirs. And again, I can't really give you any specifics to illustrate that point right now. Some of you might know exactly what I'm talking about, and there's probably more than one thing. There is more than one thing I could be talking about. But that's just been a notion in the past, I don't know how many years, it's been really difficult for me. Because there are some people that are close to me that are very private people. And for me, I'm just like, well, I don't know, like, my lines are just different lines, and everyone has lines, including me. I wouldn't want certain things to be told about me to people's friends and family or whatever. The closer that person is to the closer people are together, I think I have less of a problem with them sharing. But I mean, obviously, there's certain things that I'm not really wanting other people to know either, even if they're funny things, where I could tell, somebody that's close to me that thing, because I'm like, if I'm going to be embarrassed, let's say, I want to choose who I'm being embarrassed to, like, or I want to choose who someone that won't be judgmental or whatever, someone that I can trust with that information. So obviously I have a double standard about that kind of thing, because I want to choose who I can trust with that information. And like I said, this isn't like someone telling me like, hey, this is a secret, you can't tell anyone because whatever. That's the thing, the because to me matters, and it shouldn't, because that's not respecting someone else's wishes, and it's something that I'm not bad at keeping secrets in the way that some people are bad at keeping secrets because they let it slip. Like I guess one of two things. Either they let it slip because they're bad at lying, or they're bad at hiding information, or they let it slip. Like they really didn't let it slip. They just really wanted to tell somebody. And that's not really the case for me, like I said, unless it's like if it's weighing on me and I feel anxious and stressed and I'm like, man, like I need to, like this is crazy and I can't just talk about it with you. You were there, and like I need like some outside like ears on this thing. That's how I feel sometimes. And like writing stuff down doesn't necessarily get it out for me, or making art about it in some capacity doesn't always get it out for me. Talking is a really big thing in my life and has been for a long time. Having really close friends that I can talk to about stuff, whether it is just sharing a funny story or sharing drama, you know what I mean? Like it's not in like a gossip sense necessarily. I mean, sometimes I'm sure it happens that way too. Or like I'm sharing my own stories of stuff that I'm embarrassed about or whatever, just because I want to talk. I just want to get it off my chest. I don't know how to explain it. It's just always, as long as I can remember, it's just been a very natural thing for me to talk. And I don't want to say it's in like a big mouth. Well, why would I want to say that? It's in like a big mouth way. Like, man, you got a big mouth. You need to shut up. Like, I feel like the talking that I do, it's not like it gets people in trouble. It's not like, man, you shouldn't have said that to that person because you ruined it. Like, there was this thing, and now that person knows something they're not supposed to know, and it leads to this thing, and now you screwed everything up for everybody. It's not like that. There's just people have requested me to not say certain things at times, or I'm pretty sure they don't want me to say certain things at times to anybody, even though I don't feel like it's nothing shameful. It's nothing. I don't know. Like, what is? That's the thing. Like, personal. Like, I guess there's just, I have way less boundaries when it comes to that than other people, and that doesn't mean that I get to judge what should be personal and what shouldn't be personal. I need to respect the fact that other people don't want certain things said. And I was thinking about this because there's been a lot of stuff going down, and I felt like I held it in for a while, and there was part of me that wanted to talk to somebody about it, but I didn't realize until I had an opportunity to talk to somebody about it that I didn't need to anymore. Yeah, I guess that's how I would word it. Like, I knew the feeling kind of wore off. Like, the feeling of this incident wore off eventually. But when I thought about it, I was like, well, I still, like, that's, I don't know. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, I didn't allow myself to talk about it. So then, a couple days went by, a week went by, a week and a half went by, and then I kind of forgot that I needed to unload it so bad, so that I didn't need to do it anymore. And that is just something like, it's really difficult for me to keep stuff in. So even though I don't have to sensationalize it or whatever else and be like, oh man, this crazy thing happened, I gotta tell you this, like, it's not always like that. It's rarely, I would say, like that. It's me just talking about, like, man, like, this is the situation I'm in. This is where I'm at. This is nuts. I got this going on over here and someone else is doing, like, how many things can I talk about that have to do with me that don't involve someone else? Like, everything is based around an interaction, like an interaction that I had with somebody. It's not just like, if I'm reflecting on something, I'm reflecting on interactions I have with other people, right? It's not just, I don't know, it's like a story needs conflict, and a story will always have conflict because stories generally have people interacting with something, with nature or other people, or like there's other stimuli, you know what I mean? And that's humans. Okay, humans are other stimuli that I'm reacting to. And that's just the nature of my existence, I guess. It's just always been a natural thing for me to share stuff, and I don't know if that's like I don't want to say it's attention-seeking behavior, because I don't believe it is, because the way that I'm sharing is just been a natural thing for me to share. Maybe that's because I didn't have family like growing up, or like siblings to talk to really, or whatever. So maybe it's just like I maybe that has something to do with it, with just like this independent nature that I had very young. And it's not that I disliked that at all, but when I had opportunities to like talk to people, if they were people I felt like I could trust and listen to and talk to or whatever, then I would definitely do that. And like I said, the whole external processing thing, I feel like that's why it feels so good to talk, because I figure things out that I never thought of before. I make realizations that I didn't have before, and like that's why it feels so good. It took me years and years and years and years of knowing that without really knowing why it felt so good, and now I do. But anyway, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that. It's just this thing where maybe, I don't know if it's maturity, or I don't know if it's just that my mind has been focused on it so much more, because I feel like there is so much there that it's really hard to not talk about. But I just like, part of me wonders, like, am I just going to take this stuff to my grave? Because there's things that have to do with me and people that are no longer in my life whatsoever at all, that may have only been in my life for a few minutes, that I feel like, man, I feel like I need to take that experience to my grave, but that's different. That's because maybe like I did something so horrible that I feel like I don't feel like there's a safe space for me to even express it. That's how like crappy of things that I've done are. But that's going off the rails. I didn't think it was going to go there. But I mean, when I talk about taking things to my grave, like I can only think of one thing right now that I just referenced, and like that's all I can think of right now. But I just mean like there's things of like, man, there's these stories that are part of my life now, that are part of someone else's life too, and it's really difficult to just like not be able to tell your friends what's happening in your life. Like that's been a part of my week, or that was a part of my month or whatever. That day existed. That day happened. And for no one else to know about it is weird. And I guess that relates back to this whole thing as to why I'm talking and making this video right now. Or why my art is always shared, or why whatever. Because I'm sharing me and my experiences and my feelings about my experiences, like whatever, right? Like I'm sharing all of it. And so it gets weird for me when I feel like I can't. Like when someone has put a limit on my sharing. Like I said, there's certain things that I have limits. It's not like I don't know any boundaries. And there's times where I completely understand it and I get it. And therefore it's easy for me to respect when I understand it. When I don't understand how someone else's privacy is so limited, that's when I start to feel weird about like, oh, you're limiting what I can say. And we're not on the same page. And if we're not on the same page, then I start to be like, well, like what's gonna hurt if I say something and you'll never know that I said something, and I just needed to talk to someone about it, and I don't know, but that's like this betrayal of trust. That's not where I want to be. That's not where I want to be at all. So like I said, I came to this realization today that it was like, man, I've held on to some things for not very long, but I've held on to them long enough to not feel the urgency of them anymore, and I know they're gonna come back up. And I know that like that's a part of my life now, and it's weird. Like again, it still feels weird for me to not share it. Writing it down like in a journal or something is not helpfor That's not a way for me to getting it out, because I can't get feedback in that same way. Like I'm expressing something, but I'm not getting anything back from that really. Not when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm just like sharing my day, or sharing this life event that happened. Yeah, so this whole thing of like secrets and keeping other people's stories that become your stories, and like I don't even know what I'm calling this video now. Secrets and stuff, or secrets and stories. I don't know. But like I said, I'm coming into a crossroads. I thought that I was coming to a mature place. I thought today that I was like, yo, I think I can live with this. Like I think I made that kind of realization. Like I can live with not telling people these things. And now that I'm talking about it again, I feel like, I don't know. Like, can I though? Can I really? Because I don't know if I can. Like, and it's not because it's urgent right now. It's because like now that it's dulled a bit, I feel like I can speak about it more casually. And beforehand, I would be speaking about it like, holy crap, like this is going off. Like it would be more dramatized because it was more in the moment, and exciting isn't necessarily the right word, but it was, I was very excitable. Like I was like, certain events happen and you just get really worked up, and therefore I want to tell someone in that moment. Whereas right now, I don't feel that way. But because it's so much more casual, I feel like it almost allows me, it affords me more of like a feeling of like, yeah, I'm not doing anything too taboo here. I'm just sharing, my life and whatever happened. Like, I don't know. It's a weird place to be. And like I said, I really don't think that my desire to share this stuff is out of like a need for certain attention or just to be gossipy. Well, I mean, that's what it, I mean, I feel like gossiping is so much about attention anyway. But it's, yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at, I guess, talking about reflecting on secrets and privacy. Like I said, there's things where people have told me, like, they haven't said this is a secret, but it's like personal stuff that I'm like, I don't think, like, knowing someone well enough to know that they like things very, 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 very private. Like, I feel like I'm a private person, but it's only when it comes to some things. And when other people know how much I share with people, they're like, you're not really a private person. I'm like, well, I guess not. But I mean, like, I like to have privacy when I want privacy. That's what that means for me. Is like, I want to be able to control my privacy. Everyone does, though. I think, like, that's a pretty basic human nature type attribute. I feel like the controlling of your own information and stuff. Despite how much information we give away through our online presence and whatnot, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Anyway, I don't really know if I have much more to say on that. I'm just reflecting again on the fact that I'm coming to a place where I feel like maybe I can live with some of the stories that I have and not need to express them, but it's really hard. It's really hard, and it's really difficult because people on the other end of the spectrum don't necessarily understand how it can be hard for someone. And again, it's not like being a blabbermouth and running and telling someone's story. It's telling my story. And yeah, I tell other people's stories too sometimes when they're interesting, anecdotes and interesting things that happen. And it's not like they would mind because they're generally not intimate, revealing, shameful things or like vulnerable things. They're not like that. But when there are vulnerable things, it's still really difficult for me to like feel like I have to preserve this person when I'm like, man, if that happened, it did happen to me. I was there. This happened to me, and I don't need to preserve my vulnerability. I feel more vulnerable by not sharing. I guess that's what it comes down to. I feel more vulnerable by not sharing, and other people feel vulnerable with that information being out there. And when you're really, really, really close to those people and you work on a completely different page than them when it comes to this stuff, it's tough because I feel like I'm the one who's expected to conform. And I get it, and that makes sense, but it doesn't make it easy. We'll see you at another time.